In the last stream, we were working on upgrading our power situation by adding even more dynamos to our existing array of magmatic dynamos. We decided to go with the compression dynamos here, running them off of refined fuel, because not only does that give us a little bit of power to hopefully allow us in today's stream to get a very large ore processing system up and running, but it also allows us to future-proof a little bit because we need that refined fuel in order to make the advanced mechanical essence when we get to that point in the pack. Now, you'll notice we didn't complete the quest here. That's because we haven't actually picked up a bucket of refined fuel. Once we do, we can then pick up one of our compression dynamos and complete that quest as well. But before we get to that, between streams, I have done a little bit more work on building out the base. So it's not quite perfect, and as you can see here, there's still a lot of the previous base here. All of the mechanical crafting setup is still here. It's not actually running right now, so we are at a solid 15.87 million, and in fact, you'll see we're losing it very slowly but surely. But my plan is, of course, to move this, and I also plan on moving this. But what I've done between streams is I've set up this large center platform here. It's a 51 wide Minecraft circle with a smaller circle here in the middle, using the same white concrete that we've been using over in here, with one slight difference. And that slight difference is that between streams, I crafted up this guy right here, the Mason's Workbench. It is super easy to make. It's made with 2 iron, 1 brick, 1 crafting table, 2 dark oak planks, and then 1 ball of clay. And it's really nifty because it allows us to kind of chisel the concrete in ways that I previously didn't think we could do. So let me request some concrete here, and I can kind of show you a couple of the designs. I have temporarily moved this crafting terminal over here. I say temporarily. I'll probably leave this here permanently, but what I will also probably do is make a second crafting terminal that we put elsewhere in the base as well, so that we don't always have to keep flying back over to the center island whenever we want to craft something. It also doesn't help that it's quite far away from all of our storage, and part of my plan for today's stream is going to be to move these storage drawers from here down under here. So we're going to move them even further away from that crafter, which is just going to increase the time it takes for items to get there. But before we get too distracted over here, we can throw the white concrete in, and there's a bunch of different concrete variants that we can make. The one that I've gone with is this one here, the white concrete panel. I think it looks pretty nice. It's kind of just the standard concrete, but it has this nice indent pattern to it, which I quite like here. Let's try not to break the whole platform. Fantastic. I do also quite like this one, the hazard white concrete. The only reason that I've not used it is that I don't know of a way to rotate it. Like, I can't put it down going this way and this way. If I could make an outer edge kind of perimeter with this hazard white concrete, I think that would work quite nicely over here. This island, of course, still a bit of a work in progress. I've made a ton of these framed stairs between streams to make all of this pathing here look the same. But my plan is to use this platform here for our gigantic ore processing system. So we did a few episodes back put down a temporary ore processing system, and my plan is to basically recreate that 10x ore processing system 11 times, one for every single raw ingot that we currently have available to us, and line them all up along here in a massive grid. And then on the other side, what I think I'll do between streams is kind of copy this island layout, build it on this side, and I think I'll move all of the mechanical crystal setups over to that. And that should hopefully give us enough space to start making the tier 3, tier 4, and tier 5 mechanical crystals as well. But the first thing that I would like to do today is get rid of this stuff here. But I would like to move my storage drawers down to this lower level, and I would like to get a lot more storage drawers as well. So what I am thinking of doing is I'm thinking of placing my drawer controller smack bang in the center of this lower platform. So we're going to put it right beneath this ender chest. So if we can get the center of the platform, which is right about here, I think I'm going to put the storage drawer actually embedded in the floor. Although, you know what? I might put it one block up. So let's steal this. And also, congrats on McDraws there for getting the final star. But let's put the drawer controller right about here, like that. Now, as I've mentioned before, the drawer controller has a 12 block radius, which basically means that you can put down drawers 12 blocks in each direction, and so long as they're connected to the drawer controller, it will work. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if we put a drawer here and then connected it to the controller, this drawer would still work. It would still be connected to the drawer controller. Items could still be taken in and taken out via the controller. However, if we were to then put a drawer here, that one would be too far away and wouldn't work. So it gives us a ton of space to put down a ton of drawers. And basically what I am thinking of doing is taking all of the drawers that we currently have, so all of these drawers here, and putting them kind of around the perimeter of that lower platform and making kind of a ring of drawers that we can use for all of our storage needs. So if we do something like this, I want to have drawers all the way along the back wall here, all on this wall, all on this wall, all on this wall, and then going all the way up. So we're going to have a ton of drawers, a ton of empty drawers. That's going to be necessary, I think, not only for all of the things we actually want to hold, but also for all of the items that are going to be part of our auto-crafting setup going forward. Now, what we've been doing up until now is placing the drawers directly down next to the drawer controller. However, if you want to place your drawers a little bit further away from the drawer controller, and you don't want to use drawers to connect the drawer controller to the drawers, that is where the storage drawer mod adds in trim. The trim here is pretty nifty stuff. You can basically place this down and use it as kind of like a pseudo cable that allows you to connect your drawer controller to the compacting drawer. Now, there are all of the default trims, so, oak, spruce, birch, jungle, etc., but there is also framed trim from the framed compacting drawers mod. It's just sticks and planks, so sticks and planks. Fantastic. 64 is probably more than enough, but if we do something like this and like this, yeah, you can see much like the other custom drawers that we made, it doesn't really play well with the re-chiseling mod, which is less than ideal, but what we can probably do is just make it look like regular dark oak and then potentially just run it under the platform. That should work just fine. Do we have any dark oak left in the system? We do. And since the end of the last stream, the pack has updated, and thankfully, one of the things that the pack creator has added is EMC values for all of the logs that are not regular oak. And so now going forward, if we want dark oak, we no longer have to grow a ton of dark oak trees. We can just take the dark oak out of the transmutation tablet and then craft that down into planks. And then if we do something like this, we get a bunch of framed trim. And what I think we'll do here is we'll kind of cut a hole in the floor on this side. And then if we run this kind of down, along, and over to the drawer controller, that should give the drawer controller access to those storage drawers. We can test it, of course, if we take some of the iron out here. There is now 91 iron in this drawer, and if we double right-click the iron ingots onto the drawer controller, it places them into the drawer. Nice. So I think basically what I'm going to do is move all of the drawers we currently have down to here. We'll also get a few more framed compacting drawers for all of the ingots that we're going to start processing when we get our 10x ore processing system up and running. And then we'll also make, I think, just a ton of new storage drawers, new empty storage drawers that we can use in the future to add to our auto crafting system. All right, so quite a lot of drawer making later, and we now have a room of storage drawers coming together. So what I've done here is I've made a bunch more of the 2x2 drawers that we've been using up until now, and I've placed these on the back wall. This is going to be our auto crafting wall. So any items that are required to autocraft something or any items that are made by autocrafting are going to go here. So as we add more things to our server room upstairs, we're going to fill in this wall with even more of all of these little bits and pieces. On the left and right, I've put down just the standard 1x1 frame drawers. They can hold 2048 of any one item. My plan basically is to move everything from the front here, or almost everything I should say from the front here, into a 1x1 drawer. So things that we're getting a lot of, like gunpowder, ender pearls, rotten flesh, eventually sulfur. In the last stream we did set up this setup in here. If I grab my personal shrinking device, we did set up our, this one here. We did set up our refined fuel processing system, but you'll see right now that sulfur dust and tar are starting to clog up this system. So again, sulfur dust is one of those things that we want to bring back through to the overworld, and that's probably going to go in one of the big drawers because we're going to get a lot of it. And then I've also made a few more compacting drawers here, and the reason for that is that, as I've mentioned previously, I think it's going to be in our best interest to put things like redstone, lapis, coal, diamonds, emeralds, and nether quartz into their own compacting drawers, because when you put them in compacting drawers, it allows you to access that redstone in block form. Even though there's no like redstone nugget, it still gives it in block form, which makes it easier on auto crafting because we don't have to teach our system upstairs how to make diamond blocks, emerald blocks, coal blocks, lapis blocks, redstone blocks, quartz blocks, etc. Right? So what I think I will do, these are all 5 tall, and I've also picked up the ingot drawers because I actually think I'm going to move these and put them down over by where the ore processing takes place and then just connect them up with pretty pipes. I'll show you what I mean by that a little later on in today's stream. But essentially, what I think we'll do is we'll have the top line of, or the middle, I should say, of the top line of these walls here be compacting drawers. Let's put down, let's say this many on both sides, and then we can start filling those with things like redstone. Like that. And it turns out, look at that, there is a tiny pile of redstone dust in this pack. That is interesting. Let me grab a few of these other ones here and make sure that they do all indeed work. So we'll take the coal, the lapis, the diamonds, the emeralds, and I think nether quartz should work, but we'll give it a try. So we're going to do redstone, we're going to do coal, lapis, diamonds, emeralds, and nether quartz. Nice. All right, so not too long later, we've moved all of the items from our initial set of storage drawers here into their respective drawers. All of our mob drops are over on this side, and then we've got most of our blocks over on this side, and of course we've got a ton of space spare. And at some point, I think maybe between streams, I'll probably go through and start moving things into storage drawers. There's a lot of stuff in these drawers that is not currently in a drawer but could be, right? We've got paper here that could have its own drawer. We've got obsidian that's going to of course go into its own drawer. And what I'll probably do is move the blast chiller potentially, and we can always embed it in the wall somewhere, or we can even hide it maybe just like behind one of these drawers and have it pump obsidian in continually. Speaking of which, I think what we're probably going to want to do is get a couple of EMC links to keep things like cobblestone and oak logs topped up in our system. I have moved this crafting terminal so that we don't have to keep flying back and forth. I'll make another one to put over there at some point in the future. But over here, do we have a spare EMC link? We do not. That shouldn't be a problem. And in fact, it's probably one of those things that we should teach our system how to make, especially if we're going to start making even more of these mechanical crystals. Okay, so I've taught my crafter here how to make the basic EMC link. I've also taught the multi-server press here how to make the invar plates for that EMC link, and we made sure to teach our oak slab recipe over in our single item crafting crafter so that there's no cross-contamination with other recipes. Now, earlier in the stream, whilst I was moving my storage drawers around, I did once again accidentally right-click using the Morning Star, which destroyed quite a large amount of the platform here, and most importantly, it destroyed my other ender chest. So we have one ender chest. The other ender chest, however, was destroyed, which is not ideal. However, it turns out that if you turn down the power of the Morning Star, so you can turn it up with V and you can turn it down with Shift V, turning it down means that to 0 means that when you right click, it no longer destroys large amounts of your base, and it has no effect on speed. I saw some people in the comments telling me to turn the speed down so that I didn't break stuff as fast, but this bar here has nothing to do with the speed of the Morning Star. It'll do the same speed breaking no matter what you have that set to. By the looks of it, it only changes how much damage it does with the right click. So I'm gonna leave mine all the way down, but that does mean that now we don't have the other ender chest to add to the system. However, looking at the system now, because we've moved the draw controller so close, I think what we should be able to do is kind of just forego the ender chest entirely. If we get rid of the ender chest and instead just have these basic mechanical pipes going directly to the draw controller, again, just because the draw controller is right here, right? We can grab a few more of these advanced logistical transporters. We can connect that here, and then we can just run those down the back and into the draw controller here. I think that's going to make life a lot easier. One, in the fact that we don't have to make another ender chest, but two, in that it's going to mean that if a system is backing up, we don't have to look in the ender chest, because I think all the items will just stay in their respective crafters. Like if the item doesn't have somewhere to go because it doesn't have a storage drawer slot, it will just stay in the crafter, and I think it's going to make it a little easier to troubleshoot that kind of problem going forward. Now, I do have a ton of tin here because I smelted some between streams, but we are going to need to get more advanced logistical transporters, and for that, we are going to need our metallurgic infuser, which we currently don't have. But I do think that one of the things that we are going to want to do here is automate the usage of the metallurgic infuser. And I love how fast this is now, especially if we're pulling something out of our storage drawer system. Like if we wanted 2 stacks of coal, it just goes so quickly from the drawer controller up into this terminal. It is fantastic. And the same with items going back as well. It's very nice indeed. So last stream, we did set up automation for a few of our machines here. And I think it's going to be in our best interest to automate more than one metallurgic infuser. Because unlike other machines, the metallurgic infuser requires the side product here, right? It requires either redstone or coal or gold or refined obsidian. There's a ton of stuff you can put in this yellow slot. And so I think what we should do is we should get another metallurgic infuser, because if we're going to auto-craft the machines required to make our ore processing setup, which is something I would like to do, I would like to auto-craft all of the smelting factories. I would like to auto-craft the crushers, and I would like to autocraft the pulverizers. The pulverizers our system already knows how to make, but in order to teach our system how to make the crushers and the energized smelters, it needs to know the basic control circuits. These are made with osmium and redstone in the metallurgic infuser, and it needs to know how to make steel, which we're going to do using the mechanism steel grit method. We're going to teach it how to make the steel dust and then how to smelt that steel dust into steel ingots. If we're going to make that happen, we need 2 metallurgic infusers, one that uses redstone and one that uses coal. So let's go craft up a second metallurgic infuser real quick. Thankfully, these are very easy to make. And then we could also, if we wanted to, use some enrichment chambers as well. These are going to allow us to be a lot more efficient. How many control circuits do we have? We have 1, which is not ideal, but we'll come back to those enrichment chambers. I think we will use those. But over here, let's see if we can't get these set up. So we do have to think about the fact that the metallurgic infuser is going to need to get items from the top that are going to be auto-crafted. They're going to be sent in, much like we're doing here. Power from the back, items pulled out of the bottom. But then we also need a way of inserting the other items into here, the coal and the redstone. So I think what we'll do is we'll put 1 here and 1 here, like that. And then we'll probably go ahead and maybe disconnect this pipe here and disconnect this pipe here. That way we can have coal coming in to the left and redstone coming in to the right, and we can use our Pretty Pipes network to make that happen. There are retrieval modules, low, medium, and high. These pull items from other inventories in the network into wherever you send them. So we can put a pipe down here, put in a retrieval module, and tell it to send, say, redstone, and put it in the metallurgic infuser. So I think that's something we'll do. What you can do, and what we've not done up until now, is use the enrichment chamber to increase the efficiency of the metallurgic infuser. Because what we've been doing, and what we're going to do right now, is we're going to grab some redstone, which we have over here, and osmium. We don't need a ton, let's say 6. We can take both of these up to our metallurgic infuser, and so long as this guy has power, which we can of course do with our basic universal cable, like that, we can then place in the redstone on the left, and we can place in the osmium, and that's going to make the basic control circuit, and that's going to work just fine. But it's 2 redstone per basic control circuit, which is a little pricey. However, if you take the redstone first and run it through an enrichment chamber, that's going to turn the redstone into enriched redstone, and that enriched redstone in the metallurgic infuser gives you 80 millibuckets of redstone, whereas regular redstone in the metallurgic infuser only gives you 10 millibuckets. So you can effectively make the redstone 8 times more efficient by first running it through the enrichment chamber, effectively requiring 8 times fewer redstone than you would otherwise need. And the same is true for coal as well. And so let's see if we can't get 2 enrichment chambers, and we'll put one of them down on, I think, either side of these metallurgic infusers. While we're here as well, I am going to make some more of the infused alloy here so that we can make some more of the advanced logistical transporters to actually connect the auto-crafting system back up to our draw controller. Boom and boom. That's going to get us the advanced mechanical pipes, Isaac. Those are the wrong pipes. That is my bad. We've got some nice fluid pipes for the future. Do we have any logistical transporters? We do. Let me get all of those. Again, nice and quick. And then let's upgrade those to the higher tier, like so. Fantastic. And then we can use those to connect up to our draw controller. So we're going to go and do something a little bit like this and connect that all the way up to the top. Nice. And so now things should still go directly into the drawer controller, much like they did with the ender chests before, but there's no longer that middle buffer that we keep having to check if things go wrong. We can now diagnose and kind of troubleshoot where things are going wrong much more effectively, I think. Anyway, let's see if we can't make these 2 enrichment chambers. For that, we need 2 more of the steel casing, which should be fine. I did just make some steel. I think we have some glass lying around. We do not. That is fine. Our system should know how to make glass. Let's go ahead and request, let's say, 16. Once we have the glass, we can do 1 and 2 steel casings. Those are going to come in nice and fast. And from there, I think we should have basically everything it takes to make the enrichment chambers here. Let's request 1, 2 of those. Good stuff. And we'll put both of those down up next to our metallurgic infusers. So we're going to have 1 of those down right about here, and the other one down right about there. Nice. So in here, we're going to set, we'll start by setting all of these to just off. We're going to say input at the bottom and output to the right, auto eject on. Over here, we're going to say input at the bottom, output to the right, auto eject on. In the metallurgic infusers, we want these to input from the top for their main item, input to the left here for the yellow item, which is this left bar here, and then we'll do the same here, but of course we're going to set the right side here to yellow, the top is still going to be red, that's fine, and then both of these want their bottom to be output, and they don't need to have auto eject on because we're going to extract using the logistical transporters. So now all we need to do is we need to get 2 of these retrieval modules. I think the low retrieval module here should be fine. And I'm hoping that none of this is too difficult for us. We have a bunch of ender pearls lying around, so those are not going to be a problem. Our system knows how to make pistons, and in fact, we have 4 of them already. So let's request 2 of those. We'll also request, I guess, 2 slime balls to make that happen. Blocks of redstone we have, and again, our system now has direct access to those blocks of redstone, so we don't even have to craft those manually anymore, which is very nice indeed. Let's send you back, and then let's see if we can't request 1, 2 of those. We're missing iron nuggets and blank modules. That's fine. I think we just need to make sure that our system makes us some blank modules. The blank modules, we're missing iron nuggets. That's because we don't have any iron in the system. That makes a lot of sense. Again, hopefully that's something that's not going to be a problem for us by the end of today's stream, because I'm hoping that we can get our compacting drawers back down when we get our ore processing up and running. For now, let's try that one more time. Can I get a couple of blank modules? We can. Once we have the blank modules, 1 and 2, we get 2 low retrieval modules. Nice. So we're going to have one of these set to retrieve redstone and the other set to retrieve coal. And those are going to go via some pretty pipes into those enrichment chambers. So pretty pipes wise, we are kind of out. Let me go ahead and request another stack of those. Once we have those, we can then add them to the enrichment chambers. So these we're going to connect up via pretty pipes. We do need to make sure, though, that we leave enough space here to actually run the logistical transporters out, because, of course, we do need to be able to extract from those. This is a little janky, but should work. And we'll run this up and around into here as well. We might end up tweaking that to make it look a little nicer, but then we should be able to run that over to here, connect that to our main network, and then from there, we want to put the low retrieval modules into the enrichment chamber connected pipes. Each enrichment chamber is set to input from the bottom. That's fantastic. This one here wants to receive redstone, and it's not all sides. We want just the enrichment chamber. Boom. And hopefully we should start to see redstone making its way through. Look at that. Fantastic. Redstone is getting beamed up into there. You'll have to see it. It is only sending 1 at a time, but I honestly think that's fine. It does mean we're going to end up with a stack of redstone just kind of sitting in the enrichment chamber, even once we are like fully backed up on enriched coal and enriched redstone, but I think that's fine. I think that's a good price to pay for having these metallurgic infusers automatable all of the time. You'll see here, it's making the enriched redstone, and that enriched redstone is being placed into the metallurgic infuser. We should see the same happening on this side as well. Of course, this one does need power. There we go. But we should, if we give that a quick tap, see this produce the coal and put it in here. Nice. From there, it should be the exact same process we've done a million times before. We need 2 pipes. We also need 2 chests, which we should have. Boom and boom. We do want to make sure, I think, that we disconnect this pipe here, because we don't want this crafting module thinking that it can make bronze in here. It definitely cannot. Instead, we can do this, and then, of course, using our crafting modules, we can then teach the system. I'll just put 3 in each of here, so we're ready to go for the future. But now we can teach our system how to make things like the basic control circuit. For that, it is just as simple as teaching the system that 1 osmium equals 1 basic control circuit, because of course the redstone is always going to be there. And we can do the same with a bunch of other recipes as well. We can, of course, teach our system how to make those alloys, the infused alloys that we were just making. I might as well do that whilst I'm up there. Do we have a spare circuit? We do indeed. Fantastic. And, of course, we can use our crafters to teach the system how to craft up the regular basic circuit up to advanced. And then in the future, we can do elite and ultimate as well. For now, though, we're going to say U equal U. And the same again here. 1 iron equals 1 infused alloy. Let's make sure that we disconnect this in the middle as well. We'll do that. Fantastic. Set these to extract and extract. And then we'll set the ones at the bottom to extract as well. Extract and extract. And there we go. Our system should now know how to make both basic control circuits and infused alloys. And then over here, it's just a case of teaching this chest that an iron ingot equals the iron dust. And again, now, thankfully, we don't have to worry about the iron dust being taken out of here because there's nowhere for it to go. The enriched iron is just going to wait there. We can then take it, place it in here, like so. Fantastic. And then we can teach it again that enriched iron equals steel dust. Nice. And then finally, over here with our smelting factory, if we can find a spare slot, we are running out, but we do have some still, we can then put in yet another crafting module, and we can say that steel dust equals steel. And again, this shouldn't go anywhere. It doesn't. We can put the steel in like that. Over here, let's teach our system how to make these machines, starting with the steel casing, and of course, moving through to the energized smelter and the crusher. I think that's all we need, right? Because if we check the overhauled ore processing again, we are going to go with a purification chamber, actually. That's where I need to start. Purification chamber. Let me bookmark that. We're going to use that to move some of our items over. Then we have the crushing wheels. Then we have the crusher. Then we have the pulverizer. And of course, ideally, we're going to get those earth chargers as well. So I'm going to teach the system how to make the purification chamber, the crusher, and the energized smelter, as well as the electrolytic separator. This is what we're going to use to generate oxygen. All right, so I think I've taught the system here basically everything it needs. I've taught it the crusher, the purification chamber, and the energized smelter, along with the electrolytic separator, the enrichment chamber, because it's required for the purification chamber, along with all of the subcomponents like the electrolytic core, which is required for the electrolytic separator here. I also taught my crusher how to make osmium dust, and I've taught this system how to make the advanced control circuit. So we are probably not going to have enough of a lot of our core resources here. Things like iron, redstone potentially. We might have enough redstone because we have 874 of that, but we don't have a lot of iron. That's again because we don't have an iron drawer set up currently, and of course because of the fact that we are not currently actually producing iron automatically, right? The only way we produce iron is by doing it manually like this, and of course right now we don't actually have a drawer dedicated to iron either. What I will do is for now put a drawer over here that's going to allow iron to go into the system. And then let's see here. If I requested 11 purification chambers, and by that I mean 10 because we already have one. If I can request 11 because it's going to give me the one that we already have plus 10 more. Is that going to work? No, it's going to send the one that we have and no more. Why is that? What are we missing? It says enrichment chamber not found, purification chamber not found. So the enrichment chamber requires basic control circuits, which our system should know how to make. Steel, glass, and osmium, our system should know how to make all of those. Iron and redstone, we should have. And then for the purification chamber, it's infused alloy, advanced control circuits, and potentially osmium, actually, might be the thing that we're missing. We have 5 osmium. Let me get a bunch more smelting and see if that is potentially the problem. That's my bad. Up here, I just didn't put in the crafting card for the enrichment chamber. I've done everything else, but if we do that, that should now work. So let's give that one more try. Can we request 10 purification chambers? We can request 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I requested 10 and it gave me 1, and then I requested 9 more individually, and it was like, yeah, that's fine. So it is going to make them. That should work just fine. Let's try the same thing here with electrolytic separators. Can I request 10 electrolytic separators? 1, and then we're out of stuff. Again, it's possible we're out of osmium. Yeah, right away, we did just smelt up a stack of osmium, but it looks like it's been just instantly gobbled up by those purification chambers. Again, hopefully osmium is one of those things that we're going to get automated fairly shortly here, but let's get a few more stacks here and let's get those smelting in the system, at which point we should be able to request it And whilst we wait for all of that to come in, it is going to take a minute here. We can dump the osmium in like that, and that should slowly but surely get processed. But whilst we wait for that, I think the only other thing that we're going to need is the crushing wheels, right? We need 11 sets of crushing wheels. We currently have 1 set of crushing wheels ready to go, but making 11 more crushing wheels, I don't think is going to be that difficult for us. It's just a ton of andesite alloy with planks and stone. Now, we could just do this manually. However, I think it's also going to be pretty straightforward for us to auto-craft with this mechanical crafter, and I think it's going to have the side benefit of also allowing us to auto-craft the electric motor as well, which I think is something we are going to want to teach our system to make, because we're going to need 11 sets of crushing wheels, but we also need potentially 11 electric motors. We could maybe get away with fewer, because you can just put 1 electric motor down and then use shaft and gearboxes to run power to the rest. But having the option to autocraft electric motors is going to be useful, because even if we don't use it for this setup, there are plenty more setups going forward that we're going to need kinetic stress units for. There's a lot of create in this pack, especially going forward. There's a lot more automation that needs to be done using create, and so like this, for example. And so having the ability to just request those motors, I think, is going to be very good for us. So let me grab a regular old Minecraft chest. Also, chat is theorizing that the reason why we had to request those individually is because of the fact that they don't stack, which I think makes sense. So over here, what I think we are going to do, again, this is going to be moved between streams. This whole platform is going to be moved, but for the time being, I'm going to put it here, and I'll just move the whole system, including the auto-crafting, when the time comes. But let me also request another stack of pretty pipes, because we're going to run out of these pretty soon as well. But I think what we'll do here is we'll put a few crafting modules into this pipe here. And in fact, you know what? Just to make our lives a little easier, let's put it here. Thankfully, the crushing wheels don't require that many items, or that many types of items, right? We have andesite alloy, planks, and stone. That's 3 types of items, so we can teach that inside of one of these medium crafting modules. But then the electric motor requires 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of items. This one's going to be much trickier, just because there's so many more subcomponents required, especially these copper spools. These could be a bit of a pain for us. But what I think we'll do is, let me go check. Do we have any andesite alloy? We do. Each crushing wheel requires, or each set of crushing wheels, I should say, requires 16 andesite alloy, so we'll request 16 of that. We'll also request 4 oak planks, and we'll request 1 stone. We can then take all of those back over here, and we can say that 16 andesite alloy, 4 planks, and 1 stone is going to equal the crushing wheels. Now, the problem with the mechanical crafter here is that if we set this to extract and we start pulling all of these items out, they're just going to go into random slots, which is not ideal. And so it's going to be a little convoluted, but I think that we can make this work if we get a stack limiter and a filter for each mechanical crafter. So in our case here, I believe there are 21 mechanical crafters. There are indeed. And so we're going to request 21 stack limiters, which we have taught our system how to make. Can I get 21 of those? And also 21 filters, which we've also taught our system how to make. Can I get 21 of those? I got 1 low stack filter. What am I missing? I got 2 stack filters. Can I have 20 more of them? I got 20 low stack filters. Okay, I'm not quite sure why that didn't work the first time, but that's fine. It did only request 14 stack limiter modules as well. Let me see if I can't get the remaining 7 of those. I can't, because we're out of cobblestone. Interesting. That is why we got so distracted, chat. But earlier we did teach our system how to make EMC links. The idea behind the EMC links is that what I think I'm going to do is maybe set up another even lower platform here with an array of EMC links all pumping up into the draw controller, because what that should allow us to do is it should allow us to keep things like cobblestone fully stocked at all times. So we're just going to have EMC links that are going to produce 1 cobblestone per second and send them up into this draw, so that hopefully most of the time we have a full draw of cobblestone. We can then take as much cobblestone as we want out, and then it will slowly but surely be replenished whilst we wait. That's the idea, at least. I do see that we've got a lot of stuff backing up over here. I think that what's probably happening is that we don't have storage slots for a lot of this stuff. So the infused alloys and the basic control circuits and whatnot, they are almost certainly going to need a new slot given to them on the back wall. But that is why we have all of this stuff over here. So let's do something like this and something like this. And while we're here, we might as well also do something like that as well, just to give our system all of the tools that it needs to make all of this happen. And so now we're just waiting for the stack and filter upgrades, which shouldn't take too long. All right, once we have all of the stack limiters and the low filter modules, I think we should be pretty much good to go here. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one stack limiter into each of these. That's basically going to tell this kind of mini pipe network here that each one of these crafters can only hold one item, which is true. There's no space for more than one item. And although it's never going to be the case that more than one item goes in, it would sometimes be the case that the system would try and send more than one item to it, and we'd end up with just like items bouncing around in here unnecessarily, which is not what we want. So let's quickly set all of these to 1. So these are all set to 1. Now what we're going to do is we're going to install a low filter module into every single one of these as well, and we're basically going to filter the pattern for the crushing wheels into the wall here. So we're just going to filter the center one here for stone, like so. Again, I don't think it matters if we set it to all sides. I think setting it to all sides is fine. And then the one above is going to be oak planks, like this. The one to the left, also oak planks. The one to the right, you guessed it, is oak planks. And oops, look at that, it's all oak planks. And then the rest of these are just going to be set to andesite alloy. And once all those are filtered, we can then come and steal this electric motor, which we're going to put down over here. Goodbye, my friend. Oh, almost avoided death there, but let's do this. And then we do need to connect that up to power, which is, of course, easier said than done with the current state of our base. Again, none of this is permanent. Do bear that in mind. But if I do this, that's going to connect that up. And the trouble here, I guess, actually, I did run into this problem in testing, is that we have to actually slow down the motor, because the motor here, you'll see its current stress capacity is 1024 units, but each one of these is using 64. We could turn the speed up, but when you turn the speed up on this, it also increases the stress unit use of the mechanical crafter. So for the first time ever, we're actually going to have to take, whoop, almost lost it. We're going to have to take the electric motor, go and grab some of our big cogwheels and small cogwheels, and actually manually slow down the speed of the electric motor so that it's not too fast. So here, instead of going from, previously, we had a setup that was like this, with a big cogwheel going diagonally up to a small cogwheel, so the shaft power would come in here and then be transferred into there, and because you're going from a big to a small, it would speed up. Here, we're going from a small diagonally down to a big, so it's the same setup, but we're putting the input in a different place here, and we've done that twice. So we've gone small to big, and then small to big, and that's reduced the stress impact of each of these mechanical crafters to 16 stress units, which is fine. It's enough for the electric motor. People in the Twitch chat were suggesting I could just change the number here. Changing the number wouldn't have worked. Like, you can't, like, because changing the number on this changes both the speed, like the rotational speed, and also the number of stress units produced in a linear fashion. So if I were to slow this down without using the cogwheels, it would reduce the number of units required by the crafters, but it would also reduce the number of units proportionally that the electric motor produced, thus making it still overstressed, so it still wouldn't work. Whereas here, we can turn this to as high as we like now, and it should still work, which is fantastic. So this is all good, and it should be the case now that all we need to do is just connect all of this up. So let me get rid of you and you, and then let's do some lovely, temporarily janky piping to run all the way over to here. Because what should happen now when we request some crushing wheels is we should see 16 andesite alloy, 1 stone, and 4 planks sent to this chest. The final piece of the puzzle, actually, that we don't currently have is an extraction module. I think we will go for a higher tier extraction module here. Do I have any more blank modules? The answer would appear to be no. Can I request some more of these? We should be able to. I'm assuming, by the way, that the purification chambers that we're making, again, are stuck in crafting limbo. And by that, I mean that they're probably stuck over here. Yes, we've got a few more items that we need to add to our wall. Let's take you, and let's put these into their own storage drawer. Again, they don't stack, which is a little unfortunate, but this shouldn't be a problem. Let's do this, this, and this. This should still be able to hold quite a few of them. Oops. So should be fine, and then we'll see a few of them start to back up in here as well, but that's also not going to be a problem. Did we get those modules? We did. Okay, beautiful. So I'll take a low extraction module. I will upgrade this to a higher tier of extraction module, because the higher tier you go with the extraction module, the more items it can extract at once. So I believe the low extraction module will do 1 item per request. The medium will do 8, and I think the highest will do 16, which is it's pretty fast. It's quite nice. It's very good for us indeed. So let's hit request as well. Then over here, we can put in the extraction module right there. That's going to pull everything out of this chest. And so if we kind of simulate the request, it's going to send 1 stone, which should be taken and should be placed into the center slot. It didn't get placed in the center slot. That makes me think I've made a mistake on the filtering. I might have to set... Oh no, I'm a fool. I need to set this to allow, not disallow. That's my bad. Let me take that out, and let me quickly change my filters to allow, not disallow. Okay, so once they're all set to allow, now if we put the stone in, the stone should be extracted, and it should only go to the center. Nice. The same is true for everything else here. If we put in the 16 andesite alloy, all 16 of those should get extracted nice and quickly, and they should be evenly distributed amongst all of the slots. And because of the fact that we've put in both the stack and the filter, it's never going to try and put more than 1 into any of the mechanical crafters, and so all of those should go into the right place. Fantastic. And then the final piece of the puzzle is, of course, the 4 planks. We'll put those in as well. Of course, if we request it, they're all going to go in at the same time, and slowly but surely, that is going to connect itself up, and once they're all in, they're all going to start going, and it'll be sent around into here. Nice. And then all we need to do, of course, is just go ahead and connect this here back up to the main pipe network. So if we do something like this, that should work. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this, but put that there. That means that now, as soon as we request it, the system should notice that the crushing wheels are here in this connected barrel, and it should pull them around to the table. Let's give it a go, shall we? Of course, I did need to set this here up. There we go. We actually have to tell it that it makes crushing wheels. So let's head back over here and let's try this again. So crushing wheels, there are 2 of them. Let's say we want 4, right? Because that's going to have the system make 2 lots of it, right? So request. And it says sending 2 crushing wheels. If I request 2 more, andesite alloy not found. Okay, that's fine. I probably need to teach our system how to make the andesite alloy. Let me go and see if we have space for that. We definitely do. Nice. As I mentioned earlier, I think for now, I'm going to use this recipe for andesite. There are better recipes involving quartz that we can use in the future once we have a decent amount of nether quartz coming in automatically. But for the time being, if we do something like this, we can teach our system how to make andesite. And then on top of that, we can also teach it how to make andesite alloy along the same vein. So we'll hit apply, and we'll add that to one of the crafting modules. Nice. Over here, the crushing wheels are done, which is very nice indeed. And if we try this again now, if we request another 4, again, we do need 22 of these, so let's request 4 more, and it says sending 4 crushing wheels. So over here, this should work just fine, though. We should see that slowly but surely, all of the andesite alloys go into the right slots. All of the stone and planks also go in the right slots. And then as soon as the first craft is done, the crushing wheels will be sent to the barrel here, and then from there, they'll be sent around back to the system. And after the first batch is done, the next batch should make their way in right away. Right now, of course, the system is making the andesite alloy, which is going to be happening over here. And again, this needs to be added to the wall of drawers to make it work. Before I do that, chat does make a good point. One other thing that was changed in the newest version of the pack is these upgrades here changed from requiring sugar to requiring redstone, which is very nice indeed. I'm happy the pack maker made this change. It means that now you can get into pretty pipes and make it nice and fast without having to get all the way down to tier 4. It also means that for us, making these high-speed increase modules is going to be a lot easier, which means that we can put these in here with the extraction module, and that's going to give us basically the same effect of the pipe pressurizer, but on that one pipe extract. Over here, let's do that. That should basically straight away send some of the andesite alloy over to here. It did indeed. That is going to start working any second now. There we go. And hopefully now we should see the next batch of items go into their slots much, much faster. Yeah, look at that. That is tremendously faster than it was previously. It's still not super fast. It could be faster. Actually, it looks like the thing that's slowing us down is just how fast the andesite alloy is coming in, which is not ideal, but it is working. Look at that. Fantastic. And so now, when we want to get our crushing wheels, which we're doing here, we can just request them. And we'll get 2 more here in a second. That's going to take us up to 10. Again, we do need 22 of these, but I think that's fine. Can I request 12 more crushing wheels? I can request 4. It's possible we're out of iron nuggets of all things, because again, we don't have much iron, and all of our nuggets are being used on a lot of the crafting recipes. If I do that, can I request 8 more of these? I can. Nice. All right, so we have 22 crushing wheels. Fantastic. And we have 10 purification chambers and 1 extra purification chamber as well. Let's go ahead and request all those. The system is a little funky here when you try and request too much stuff. Obviously, there's only 6 slots in here, which would be one of my kind of main complaints about the Pretty Pipes mod. I would love if there were more slots here for receiving items, because it does mean that if you request more than 6 things, the rest of the stuff just gets bounced back. But let's take all of these. This platform here is very wide. I want to say it's 67 blocks wide. It's also 13 blocks deep. When I was calculating how I wanted this to work, my plan was to have the compacting drawer right at the end of the platform. So we'll do iron first. We'll take this, and much like we did last time, we'll place this at the end. The whole process is 5 wide and 9 deep, which means I think we want to go here. I also left space for a 1 block wide gap at the end. So that's where we're going to have our iron. Before the iron is going to be the energized smelter. We should be able to request an energized smelter. We totally can. While we're at it, let's also request a pulverizer. And that should be almost everything. We don't have a crusher. The only tricky part about the crusher is that it requires buckets of lava, which we can get, but it just means that if we wanted to craft all 11 crushers at the same time, then we would need 22 buckets of lava just in the system ready to go. But for us, we should now be able to request a crusher. We can. Fantastic. And of course, all of these items are going to back up in their crafters, as is the case every time we make our first craft, because we then need to, of course, set an output for whatever it is we're crafting, like the energized smelter here, and for the pulverizer as well. I don't think we have a pulverizer spot on this wall just yet, but once we've made our first one, making more should be substantially easier. The energized smelter is, of course, going to go down right here, like that. Then we're going to have the pulverizer before that, the crusher before that. As we saw a few streams back, we are also going to need a hopper as well. Hoppers, our system does now know how to make. We'll request one of those. Let's go check on the crushers and the pulverizers. I think the pulverizer is all the way at the back here. Looks like pistons also need a spot, which is probably what's stopping the pulverizer from being made. If I do that, yeah, the pulverizer is made instantly. That's fine. Let's try and rectify that by putting both pistons and pulverizers into their slot on the wall. As for the crusher, it looks like for whatever reason, it's only requested one of the 2 lava buckets, which is odd. I'm not quite sure why it would have done that, unless, yeah, the recipe here, the medium crafting module, for some reason only says 1 lava bucket. I'm not quite sure why. I guess it's because lava buckets don't stack, actually, which probably means we need to get a higher tier crafting module. That makes sense. Okay, let's not do this wrong. Let's do this and this. Fantastic. Those are all going to go to the right places. That's all good. There's our pulverizer and our hopper. As for the crusher, what we can do is we can request this lava bucket and go put that in manually. But to prevent this from happening in the future, we can grab one of our medium crafting modules, drop that back in the system, and upgrade that to a higher tier of crafting module, which should hopefully allow us to specify 2 buckets worth of lava. It does. Nice. Cool. So we can put this in manually. That's going to make the crusher. It's also going to send the buckets back, which is good. I was a little worried they might stay in the input buffer, but they don't. And we are going to have to make sure those have a place to go as well. So, of course, the wall over here expands ever further. There we go. But that's basically everything, I think, now taught to our system. So, back over here. The pulverizer goes down after the energized smelter, like that. The crusher goes down after the pulverizer, like that. That needs a hopper. Into the hopper is the crushing wheels, which I think are going to go not there. They're going to go here and here. We're, of course, going to use the underside to get those to spin. Before that, we need the purification chamber. That's going to go right here. That can push directly into the crushing wheels. And then before that, we want the electrolytic separator that's going to go down right about there. That is the kind of the full process. There is one more slot at the top, though. That's this one right here. And the reason for that is that the electrolytic separator requires an infinite amount of water. And in order to get an unlimited amount of water, we are going to need an aqueous accumulator, this guy right here. Whilst we're at it, we might as well go through and teach our system how to make it, because we're going to need 11 of these if we want the entire system to work. So the Twitch chat is reminding me that this right here, the Evertide amulet from ProjectE, is actually a pretty interesting way of getting an infinite supply of water. You'll see it says there, acts as an infinite water bucket. Right-click to fill tanks and cauldrons. All operations are completely free. It's a low price. It does require 3 dark matter, and the dark matter does require 17,000 EMC, but we have 15 million, so that's not going to be too bad for us. So I believe there are a few ways we can do this. One way that I know I've done before is that if you take a basic fluid tank from a mechanism, which is something like this, obviously we need to get rid of these. Here we go. If we request a basic fluid tank from a mechanism, I believe what we can do is place it down, and inside of it, there is a little input slot. If we put this in, it just fills the tank with fluid. Now, I do believe that we can potentially change the mode on this to allow it to always fill. Down here in the bottom right, there is an option for the tank. You can have it set to both fill or empty. If we set it to empty, that should just empty this tank, this amulet into the tank and never move to the output slot, which is perfect. So someone's also suggesting in the Twitch chat that we might just be able to put this directly into the electrolytic separator. If we put it like here, that might just work. So I think it's quite possible, in fact, then, that we could just take one of these and put it in each electrolytic separator, which is kind of perfect. So we need to make 11 of them, which is not too bad. They're just buckets of water. You do get the water back. So it's really just a bunch of dark matter, which is really just a bunch of EMC. So that's going to be fine. We can put down a advanced logistical transporter. This is going to go into the purification chamber. So we'll do this. And of course here, we're going to get raw iron and set that by right-clicking. Nice. We can set that to extract using the configurator. It doesn't matter what color you make it. In fact, we could try and make these color match the ore that's in there, but I think we'll just set that to none. That should be fine. This is set to input at the top, which is perfect, and it's going to set to output on the left. We do want to make sure that auto eject is on. It's also going to have an input for the gas on the right-hand side, but for that, we need to go to the gas tab and make sure that it's set to input on the right, which it is. That's perfect. Here, the electrolytic separator is going to produce both hydrogen and oxygen. So what we'll do is under here, we'll break a few of these. We'll put down our flux plug like this, and we'll set this to our network. Fantastic. That's going to start turning water into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen is the light blue, and we want that to go out to the left-hand side. Everything else can stay off, and it doesn't matter where the input is because it's not going to matter. Of course, oxygen is a gas, so in fact, we want that to be in the gas tab. Output 2 to the left, output 1 nowhere. The hydrogen's just going to stay in there for now. That's going to push the oxygen over, and it's going to start making the iron pieces. Now, as we saw before, we can put the gas upgrades into the purification chamber to make this much more efficient in terms of how much oxygen it uses. So we'll add those in. We should also teach our system how to make the speed, energy, and gas upgrades just to make it as efficient as possible. But from there, those are going to go into here. And we're going to have to make, I think, another set of electric motors, but temporarily. Let's go ahead and, of course, steal this one. And let's see, do we have a couple of gearboxes in here? We do. I will take 2 gearboxes, please, and I'll also take a little bit of shaft if we have it. Over here, we can then put these down here and here. Let's grab our wrench so that we can rotate those to face the right way. Fantastic. I think that might work. Let's do this, and let's get our electric motor down like this. Is that going to be enough? We will find out once we connect it up. We, of course, can do this and this, and that's going to get them spinning in the right way. Perfect. We want them spinning together like that. That's going to take the iron out of here, crush it, place it into the hopper. Then in here, we want to set the right to input, which is red, and we want all the rest to be off and the left to be output. Auto eject can go on. That's going to work just fine. Then over here, the pulverizer, we're going to set the right to input and the left to output. We don't need auto input on, but we can turn auto output on. And then here, the final piece of the puzzle is we're going to have input on the right and output on the left, auto eject on. And that should kind of just work. Let's make sure that we get power to all of these machines using our basic universal cable. And now up here on the surface, I think we should basically have an iron processing system so long as these crushing wheels are doing their job. So for whatever reason, this isn't working. It did work previously. I don't know if it's an update to the pack or something that's changed this, but this hopper is no longer collecting the iron. It's just spilling on the ground. So we might have to rethink our strategy here. The Twitch chat is suggesting that we make a funnel from Create. And I'm going to give that a go. In order to make a funnel, we are going to need some dried kelp, which I believe is just kelp smelted. And we don't need that much of it, actually, so we'll just take a few of those. And it's quite simple. It's just kelp smelted plus andesite alloy. So let's go see if we can't make a regular andesite funnel. Good stuff. We can then take that andesite funnel, and I assume the idea is that we're going to put it right here. So let's get rid of this. Let's put the andesite funnel up against the crusher, like that. And I don't know if the... Yeah, no, look at that. Cool. Okay, I was going to say I don't know if the andesite funnel is going to collect it. It is. We do have to make sure here, I guess, in this scenario, that the crusher is always faster than the crushing wheel. So the crusher is basically always empty, because if this ever backs up, then we do run into problems. In fact, we're always going to run into problems, I guess, with this setup as it is, because the whole idea of this setup is that we're eventually going to fill this drawer. I do, in fact, want to downgrade this drawer. I'm going to take the void upgrade out, and I kind of want to downgrade it using the downgrade upgrade. This one right here. That's going to reduce the storage of the compacting drawer to 1 stack, but that's 1 stack of iron blocks, which I think is about 567 iron. So I wanted to lower that down. But if the whole idea is to back up, that means that this is going to fill up, then this is going to fill up, then this will fill up, then this will fill up. But then the crushing wheels will just start spewing iron onto the ground. Someone in the Twitch chat is asking why limit the iron. The reason for that is EMC. We're not making EMC fast enough. If we just leave all of our ore processors running all the time, we're going to run out of EMC, especially for things like gold. If we don't put a storage downgrade on gold and we leave it at its default value, the default compacting drawer can hold 128 stacks of items, and 128 stacks of items is 8,192 gold. If we assume a 10x ore processing, which is what we're doing, that means that we would need 819 raw gold, which multiplied by 2,048 EMC per gold piece is 1.6 million EMC. So we would start to then multiply that by 11. We would start to run out of EMC quite quickly, I think, if we just left it with regular compacting drawers. That's why I want to limit it on the downgrade. So the trouble then becomes like the crushing wheels. I don't know if there's really a way for us to stop the crushing wheels when the crusher is full. Okay, so it turns out there's a better solution here. If we get a depot from Create, which we should be able to do, we can take the depot and place that down under the crushing wheels, and it turns out the crushing wheels will actually stop crushing if the depot is full. So basically, we're going to get rid of this, and we're going to put the depot right here, like that, and then what should happen is we should see the iron ore get processed here, run through the crushing wheels, then this stuff, the crushed iron ore, is going to end up on the depot, and the crushing wheels won't crush any more iron if the depot is full. So the reason this is stopped, by the way, is that we filled up on hydrogen. For now, we can set this to dumping excess, which is going to dump any excess hydrogen to allow us to make more oxygen over here. This is going to make iron, which is perfect. That's going to get crushed and placed here. So we have 3 crushed iron on here. Now, the next piece of iron is going to get crushed, but it's going to stay in the wheels. You'll see here, there's still 3 crushed iron ore, and the wheels kind of have an internal buffer, an internal inventory, I guess, that they hold the iron in, because you'll see now the iron clumps are starting to back up in here, which is exactly what we want. We want the whole system to back up when we start to fill up our compacting drawer on iron. And all we need to do now is take our advanced logistical transporter, put that down here. We're going to disconnect this bit, even though I don't think it's necessary. We're then going to set this bottom bit to extract, like that, and that's going to take the crushed iron from that depot into the crusher. And so now we should effectively have a system that will back up eventually. We'll fill up in here. Let's go get that storage downgrade, which should be extremely easy for us to make. It is. We'll place that into the compacting drawer, like so. This is now only going to hold 567 blocks of iron. Obviously, in the future, we can take that off once our EMC starts to go up again, but right now we're not actually making EMC, so that would be a problem for us. And we should here have now effectively a 10x ore processing system that is going to keep running until we fill up on iron, and then once we start using some iron, it's going to then refill again. And my plan, of course, from here is just to break this, throw down a pretty pipe, and then connect that up to our main system along with all of the rest of them. So really, the plan now is to do this, but 11 times. All right, so quite a while later, and we have a giant platform full of 11 10x ore processing systems. These are not yet configured. I have put the drawers down for copper and gold. The rest of the drawers are empty, and none of the EMC links are configured either. And down here, I have put down these basic universal cables, but nothing but the first set has a flux point. So we need to make more flux points if we're going to get power to all of these, and we're also going to need to make more of these electric motors as well. Right now, you'll see this is producing 1,024 stress units, and each of these consumes 256, which means that the pair consume 512, which means, in theory, we could use one motor to power 2 sets of wheels, which we might try and do, but I think what I'm going to do between streams is craft more electric motors so we can get all of these hooked up, craft more flux points so we can get all these hooked up. We can go through our transmutation tablet, grabbing all of the raw ingredients like copper and gold, and right-clicking those onto their respective EMC links. Copper's going to go here, gold's going to go there, and also configure all these machines. Right now, they're just in their basic states. They all need configuring to the correct inputs, outputs, and auto-ejects. We also need to configure the pipes as well, basically doing exactly what we did here, but multiple times over. But once that's done, this is all going to be good to go. I've run pretty pipes to all of the compacting drawers. All we need to do now is hook this pipe up somewhere to the main system. Like at some point, we need to hook it up. I'll figure out where we're going to do that between streams as well, I think. But yeah, this is the system. I do want to point out that, of course, this is far larger than it needs to be. This can be done in a much more compact way, especially if you stack these vertically instead of laying them down like I've done here. The reason I did it like this is that I just think it looks cool. I like building the big base. I wanted a reason to have a large base, and I'll probably end up building a room around this ore processing setup at some point in the near future. Again, probably between streams at some point. But I quite like this. I think it's going to look good, and I think it's going to provide us with all of the resources that we need to hopefully get all of the ingots going forward for our auto crafting. Next time, we'll come back, we'll finalize any finishing touches required over here to get this all up and running, and then we'll finally look at actually automating the production of the improved mechanical essence. And of course, in doing so, we have to automate the production of earth charges, which I do want to send to the pulverizers, because technically right now this is not a 10x ore processing system until we get the earth charges in. Once we have the earth charges in, then it is a 10x ore processing system. So we'll come back, we'll automate these, we'll get the earth charges automated as part of that, and we'll send those earth charges over to here. Like I said, between streams, I'll also move these two over to a new island on the other side that's going to be a mirror of this little platform for all of our mechanical essences. And then after that, we can start looking at how we're going to work our way forwards to the advanced mechanical essence. And of course, right here is that quest for the fission reactor if we need even more power, which we might do. Right now, it seems like we don't really need to speed these machines up too much. Like, they're running just fine. If anything, we could potentially speed up maybe the end few machines, because these back few machines are all backing up quite nicely. But yeah, we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of stuff to do, but we are progressing quite nicely, and I'm quite happy with our ore processing setup and our auto crafting system. Everything is working quite nicely, and our storage is holding up quite nicely as well. We do need to increase the speed of these pipes to make the auto crafting just a little bit faster, but those are all problems for future Isaac. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's stream there.